The Holocaust was not chaos. It was not random violence. It was not simply the brutality of war spiraling out of control. It was organized. It was documented. It was engineered. Between 1941 and 1945, Nazi Party Germany transformed mass murder into a state-run system. Millions of Jews, along with Roma, Soviet prisoners of war, disabled people, and political opponents, were not just killed, they were processed. Every train schedule, every ration calculation, every architectural blueprint reflected a chilling objective: maximum death with maximum efficiency. What makes this history so difficult to confront is not only the scale, 6 million Jews and millions of others, but the method. Modern bureaucracy, industrial chemistry, railway logistics, accounting practices, and corporate partnerships were all redirected toward extermination. It was the machinery of a modern state, repurposed for genocide. If you care about understanding how societies collapse into organized cruelty, if you want to grasp how ordinary systems become tools of horror, this is a story you need to know. Before we go further, make sure you like, share, comment, and subscribe. These stories matter, and keeping them visible ensures they are never buried or distorted. Now, let's examine how this system evolved, and why its structure is as important as its brutality. From mass shootings to industrialized death. When Operation Barbarossa began in June 1941, mobile killing squads known as the Einsatzgruppen followed the German army into Eastern Europe. Their task was explicit: eliminate perceived racial and political enemies. In ravines, forests and anti-tank ditches, entire communities were executed. At Babi Yar, near Kiev, over 33,000 Jews were murdered in just 2 days in September 1941. These massacres were systematic, recorded in daily operational reports with bureaucratic precision. Yet even within this brutality, Nazi leadership identified what they considered a problem. Mass shootings were deemed inefficient and honestly psychologically burdensome for the perpetrators. The concern was not moral, it was operational. This calculation drove the search for methods that distanced killers from their victims. Gas vans and the search for efficiency. The first technological solution was the mobile gas van, initially deployed at Chelmno extermination camp. Victims were sealed inside compartments where engine exhaust was redirected to cause carbon monoxide poisoning during transport to burial sites. Between late 1941 and 1943, approximately 150,000 people were murdered there. But the vans proved mechanically unreliable and, well, just too slow for the regime's ambitions. Internal SS correspondents complained not about suffering, but about throughput and technical limitations. This pattern repeated: identify a logistical obstacle, engineer an adjustment, increase capacity. Auschwitz-Birkenau and the architecture of genocide. The most infamous killing centre, Auschwitz-Birkenau, became the apex of industrialized murder. By 1943, 4 large gas chamber and crematorium complexes operated simultaneously. Deportation trains arrived daily. Selection occurred immediately on the platform. Those deemed unfit for forced labour were sent directly to gas chambers disguised as showers. The use of Zyklon B, first tested in September 1941 at Auschwitz-Birkenau, allowed thousands to be killed within hours. Bodies were processed by Sonderkommando prisoners forced under threat of death to remove valuables and operate crematoria. During the deportation of Hungarian Jews in 1944, the killing rate exceeded crematorium capacity, leading to open-air burnings. Administrative records from the SS discuss daily processing capacity in numerical terms, as if managing factory output. The language of industry replaced the language of humanity. Starvation and extermination through labour. Not all killing took place in gas chambers. In the Warsaw Ghetto, over 90,000 Jews died from starvation and disease before mass deportations even began. Official German rations were deliberately set below subsistence levels. In camps like Mauthausen concentration camp, prisoners were worked under conditions designed to destroy them physically. Extermination through labour was not metaphorical, it was policy. Camp doctors selected those too weak to continue working, sending them to be killed and replaced by new arrivals. Corporations such as IG Farben profited from forced labour contracts, paying the SS per prisoner per day. The regime calculated economic output extracted from each person before death. Murder was embedded into an accounting framework. Public executions and the theatre of terror. In occupied territories, public hangings and reprisals reinforced control. Following resistance activity in Poland, hostages were executed in town squares as collective punishment. During the Warsaw Uprising, tens of thousands of civilians were killed in mass reprisals. These acts were not industrialized like extermination camps, but they were integrated into occupation policy. Terror served as governance. Documentation and accountability. When Allied forces liberated camps such as Bergen-Belsen concentration camp in 1945, they encountered evidence that defied comprehension. Yet the perpetrators had documented their actions meticulously. At the Nuremberg Trials, transport lists, architectural plans and operational reports became evidence. The system's thorough record-keeping made denial impossible. This is what distinguishes the Holocaust in modern history. A state mobilizing science, engineering, economics, and bureaucracy for total annihilation. Why this history still matters. The Holocaust demonstrates how administrative systems can be weaponized. Clerks filed forms, engineers improved ventilation, doctors conducted selections, railway officials optimized schedules. None of these tasks in isolation appear extraordinary. Combined, they became lethal. Understanding this structure is not about reliving horror for its own sake. It is about recognizing warning signs, dehumanizing language, bureaucratic normalization of cruelty, profit incentives tied to oppression, and incremental policy shifts that escalate beyond return. History enthusiasts often focus on battles and leaders, but the Holocaust forces us to examine systems. It asks how ordinary institutions become instruments of destruction, and how citizens respond when they see it happening. If this deep dive added clarity and perspective, subscribe for more long-form historical analysis. Share this video so these documented truths remain accessible, and join the conversation in the comments. The preservation of history depends on those willing to study it seriously and pass it on responsibly.